Ciao.
Man Play-Doh set.
You can go see Boston Mascotron too. Lots of Play-Doh adventure for you.
This is the new Bionic Woman Play-Doh set with all-terrain
bars, and I'm doing a backup recording for you just in case.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Allison Sheridan, because that's the kind of person you are. Allison Sheridan, of course, of NosillaCast podcast, is with us. And well, is there something else you want to tell people about? Some other place you would like for people to go and check out your stuff?
Podfeet.com is the main place to go, and that's where you find all my fine podcasts, including the NosillaCast.
I'm thinking, by the way, that regular guests, which you have been one for the past year, you know, the show turns like 1 year at the end of this month sometime. I should actually check the date so it can be a momentous thing. I think it turns 1 year old the same week that macOS Ken turns 15.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm thinking for the regular.
How did a year go by on that? That's
well, right.
This year.
How did a year go by? Right. It's only been like 3 weeks, I'm pretty sure. I'm thinking, though, that the regular guests need to come up with nicknames for all of them. So if you want to vote now for what your nickname's going to be, you can. Otherwise, I'm just going to start trying to make one up between now and the next time you're on the show.
Oh, wait, I get a nickname?
I think maybe everybody should have a nickname. Yeah, because, I named the analysts, right? I nicknamed the analysts, and I never talk to them. You guys I talk to all the time, and I'm like, hello, Allison. It is very good to talk to you today. It seems to me that I should, we'll try something a bit less formal.
I have no creative capabilities whatsoever, so I'm going to have to leave that up to you or anybody who suggests a name. I mean,
right.
My podcast is named after my name spelled backwards. That's my level of creativity.
Right. Yeah. Well, I understand that. Here's the thing, though. Well, two things. First of all, did you know that there is a Star Trek villain that is Ken Ray backwards? I know. From the Savage Curtain, it's Yarnek, and it's actually spelled like Ken Ray but backwards. Yeah. So I wasn't going to name my podcast that, because then people would be like, well, don't listen to him. He's crazy. Which, nothing I've done has disproven that. The other thing is, though, are you sure you want to leave it up to me? Because then you're just going to have to be happy with whatever it is.
I am. I trust you implicitly.
Yeah, gee. All right. Well, maybe no nicknames then. Right.
No.
All right. So here's what I wanted to talk to you about today. As I was closing out the year on the live show, I put it out to everybody that there was one main story for Apple. That one main story was the announcement of the Apple Silicon transition, going from Intel processors to Apple Silicon on the Macs, which, of course, we've already seen a couple of machines or a few machines with the M1 processor. More to come, to be sure. And that's going to free Apple from, Intel's development side. It's going to open up all kinds of possibilities with interaction with all of Apple's different hardware. That, it seemed to me, was the most important story for Apple in 2020, even if we didn't see the, fruition of it. And so what I put out to listeners for the live show was, what's the runner-up? What's the second most important story? And what's been amazing to me, or what was amazing to me that day, only 2 people said the same thing. I got like 6 responses or 7 responses. 6 of those 7 were completely different from everybody else.
Interesting. I mean, when the obvious answer is the solo loop watch band, right? That's actually transformative.
Somebody actually said that it was the AirPods Max. And I think they were kidding. I assume they were kidding, because all they said was, got to be the new headphones. And I thought, okay, I think that's a joke. But, if they wanted to write into me or whatever and make the case, I'm willing to listen. But I'm curious, when I put that question to you, what was the second most important story for Apple in 2020, Allison Sheridan? A-Share. I'm working on A-Share as maybe your nickname. When I put that out to you, Allison, what's your answer?
I would think that it would be the reduction in the fees to developers from 30% down to 50%. I'm sorry, to 15%. The cut that they give to Apple. I think that to me that hit so many different things in a single move Not the least of which is to maybe take some heat off of Apple for the, call it monopolistic practices of owning the App Store and having a strong arm and everything. For some reason, charging half as much to be able to strong arm developers it seems to be fine. Totally
Right.
changes the landscape. Everybody said that, which I thought was funny. Like, how do you know 15 is the right answer? Maybe 3 was right answer. Maybe 40. I don't know. But anyway, so it takes some of the heat off of Apple while all the other big tech companies are still, under full flame. And the way Apple did it to me was just epic. I have to say that.
That's
you
cute.
see what I did there.
I do.
From what I understand, this change from 30% cut down to 15% cut affects basically like 90 or 95% of developers, and only the big developers that make more than $1 million a year are going to be still paying 30%, which means Epic will still be paying $1 million or still be paying 30%. And that was such a beautifully architected move because it changed the sentiment of everybody except those people who were really, really annoying. And I thought that was hilarious.
What's funny to me is, so I actually did a little bit of math as far as people on the bubble. So I think it's like if you make, I can't remember because I figured it out, but basically if you make $900,000, you're sitting pretty. And if you make $1.1 million, you will actually take home less money than you would have if you had only made $900,000. But that's got to be like 4 people. I mean, which is not to knock the plight of those 4 people. But if you're getting close to that $1 million cap, I mean, at that point, you're looking for VC money and you're looking for ways to grow well past $1 million, I would think. If you accidentally make $1.01 million, it's time for you to think about some PR people to make that, $3 million, $5 million, something along those lines. So I guess what I'm curious about, because you did tell me that this was something you were going to talk about, your thinking really is it's the most important story for Apple from the PR side or from the goodwill that it engenders in developers or from all the above?
Well, I think it's also good for the community in general, right? If you've got it's already been true for a long time that developers who do Apple I'm not being articulate here. Developers who create products that are sold through the App Store for Apple make a lot more money on average than they do in the Android stores, right? That's factual, even though I misstated it to some extent, but you know what I mean. You make more money if you make Apple apps. And so now for them to be making even more money, that's great for getting more people to do development for Apple. And the more people who develop cool products for Apple products, the more cool Apple products become. So it's really good for Apple. It's really good for us as the users. It's great for the developers. I mean, how happy were you for your favorite indie developer that day? I didn't make any more money because I don't have anything in the App Store, but I was immediately excited for, people like Steve Harris of Reinvented Software. It just these developers, it's just fantastic. There was basically no downside to it.
Yeah, what's funny is the 2 developers that I know personally well enough to call and be like, "Hey, what's the deal?" They both make
more than $1 million.
No, they both make so little money. They're like, it's fine. I mean, which I feel kind of
$38 before, and now I make $39.50 or something.
Something along those lines. Yeah. I mean, one of them actually has been working for other people for a while now. So though he still considers himself an app developer, he's done it for others. So he wasn't going to make anything off it anyway. And I can't remember if he's like between gigs right now or what. The other person I know, though, they were like, yeah, I mean, it's great. But they mostly felt like it was a PR move, but they were fine with it because they were still developing for Apple anyway. I would be curious to know who was not developing for Apple because of the 30%. Because if they go to the Play Store, they're still paying the 30%. And if they go to, other platforms, they might be paying even more than that.
True, but it might have been, a toss-up where you were going to put your energy, right? You might have gone, well, I can go Google Play or the App Store. It doesn't matter. I'm going to get 70% of what I make anyway. If they were paying attention, they would be looking at how much more money they would likely make from people who are willing to pay vast amounts of money for their phones. But with this being 15% and until Google drops theirs to 15%, which they undoubtedly will have to do, there's definitely a bigger incentive than ever to develop for the Apple platform, I would think.